Now there's something that's worth thinking about.
Oh, yes.
You can't have a single dimension
Yes, exactly.
unless you have all three of them. By the way, what time is it?
It's 20 minutes past 6.
Okay, now look again. Is it still the same?
Well, the second
Are you telling me that it's hard for you to be honest about the time?
You got me.
That's right. You see, when you look at your watch, it keeps changing.
Yeah.
So our simplest way of perceiving time is that it exists as past, or present, or future.
Yeah.
And you can't have any one unless you have all
them
three. So when you have a think about it, number threes, once your eyes have been opened and your evolutionist glasses about nature just happening have been taken off, you'll begin to see threes all over the place. In fact, we've got three basic dimensions. Time has got three components. Now, you've told me you're a musician, right?
Oh, well, just
You played guitars, and you remember playing chords?
Yes.
Well, I know you didn't do theory because we had that discussion, but in reality, there are three notes to a chord, and when you play all three, it sounds like
harmony.
One beautiful
Yeah.
sound. But because I used to write my own music, and you'll find many scientists do this, right? Because there's a connection.
Yeah.
There's order in music and there's order in science. The minimum harmony is 3 half tones. The number 3 again. And then you cross bridges to go into towns, and you cross rivers with massive bridges. Like I was in Scotland last year, and you cross the 4th bridge on the train. It's been there for 130, 40 years, whatever. Magnificent construction. And in reality, it doesn't take long for you to begin to spot 3-sided shapes. The engineers long ago discovered that the triangle was basically our strongest structural feature.
Yes.
But okay, you've done a bit of maths at school, correct?
Just a bit.
Just a little bit. And isn't it true you have all sorts of different size triangles?
Oh, yes.
And some of them have got a right angle?
Yes, sir.
And some of them are long and skinny and they've got 2 equal angles?
Yes, sir.
And some of them have got 3 equal angles?
Yes.
All right. Now let's
equilateral
test this.
triangles.
Very good, but it's coming back, isn't it? See,
Yes.
you don't ever forget anything. It's just remembering it. That's the hard bit. Now, when you have a think about this, if you wanted to test Romans chapter 1 to the limit of all the triangles that you could make to support a bridge or a building, only one of them has got 3 sides that are equal. That would be the closest representation to a triunity, correct?
Yes, exactly.
No matter which side you look, they all appear to be the same, even though from this perspective you can see they're not, right?
Yeah.
Question. Of all the triangles you can make up, which one's the strongest? Guess.
The equilateral triangle.
Yeah, the one in which
Yes,
all
exactly.
the sides are the
Yes,
same.
exactly.
So this number 3 is not just hocus pocus,
No.
it's actually really out there. How many primary colours are there? You know, the ones you mix together in paint. Do we
red?
have 10? Yeah, what do we have?
Well, about 3.
3
Yeah.
exactly, right? When you're using paint, you have red and yellow and blue, correct, right?
Yeah.
And you know that if you mix yellow and blue, you get green, and red and blue, you get some yucky purple, and you can go ahead and try and make all sorts of mixes. Well, there's one very famous scientist who knew all of this, and his name was James Clerk Maxwell. Now, for those listeners who've never heard of him, you're watching television and understanding all of our, communications to the satellite landers on Mars because of James Clerk Maxwell's theorems on electromagnetic radiation. Our concepts of what light is and all of that are related to this man. Now, James Clerk Maxwell, and sadly the textbook doesn't tell you anymore, James Clerk Maxwell was a Christian. And James Clerk Maxwell was trying to figure out what light was. You see, light's one of those things, it's travelling so fast, you can't catch it. It's going at, nearly 300,000 kilometres a second, 186,000 miles a second. That's 7 times around the world by the time you count 1. Now, that's so fast you get to go a lot of places you don't get to see much, right? It's really fast.
Don't travel that way.
But so you can't catch it. You can't chop it in half and look inside. You can't take a bucket full. So he was trying to figure out what light was. And he knew one thing. Right from the days of Isaac Newton, we've known you can split light up. And we've also known you can put it back together again. So you'll sometimes go to museums and you'll see experiments that these scientists have done, and it'll just go right over your head. You walk into a room, it's stark white, and there's, the museum wants you to come in. These are the touchy-feely type museums.
Yeah.
They say, walk through the room. And you look inside and there's nothing there. You say, why bother? Well, if you do get brave enough to walk through the room, all of a sudden you'll find your shadow appears on the walls. You have a red shadow here, a yellow shadow here, and a blue shadow over there. Because what they've done is they've stacked the ceiling with red lights, blue lights, and yellow lights, and when they switch them all on, the three become one. And it appears white to you.
Interesting.
Unless you get in the road of it, and then you block out the other two. Right? And so that's what happens. So James Clerk Maxwell, being the genius that he was, as well as a Christian, said, I wasn't there when the world was made, but God was. So let's go back to Genesis chapter 1. And would you read us verses 1 to 5, please?
Let's read together. In the beginning, God created the heaven and the earth. And the earth was without form and void, and darkness was upon the face of the deep. And the Spirit of God moved upon the face of the waters. And God said, Let there be light, and there was light. And God saw the light, and it was good, and God divided the light from the darkness. And God called the light day, and the darkness he called night. And the evening and the morning were the first day.
Okay. God saw the light that it was
good.
Now, you're enough of a theologian to remember a conversation that Jesus had with a rich young ruler.
Yes.
Where the rich young ruler said, Good master.
Yes.
And Jesus said, Why do you call me
good?
There is nobody good except for
one.
So therefore the nature of God, who is good, is seen in his creation of light. Because he called it good. Okay, now did you notice that it said God said let there be light, and there was? Now you and I are not very good at this sort of creating. I mean, one word from God and light appears, one word from us and the dog does what it wants, right? Now, so we're not very good at this sort of speaking creation. But in reality, James Clerk Maxwell said God doesn't lie, he created light, therefore his nature, the good aspect of God, as well as the Trinity of God, must be seen somewhere in the creation. He knew about the three states of matter, he knew about the triangles, he knew about the temperatures, he knew about the times, he knew about length, breadth and height, etc., etc. James Clerk Maxwell then by faith. Catch what I just said?
By faith.
By faith. He had a fact called light.
Yes.
He didn't quite know what it was, but he did know now where it came from by faith.
Yeah.
So by faith he sat down and wrote a description of how light behaved. Would you like to guess how many parts it's got in it?
3.
3. And when you're at high school and you do this to describe Maxwell's theorem of electromagnetic radiation. This is the electric field, the magnetic field, and the tertiary vector interaction. The one thing they don't tell you is that James Clerk Maxwell got it out of the Bible. Because they like to think, scientists just invent these things and discover these things all by themselves, and that's nonsense. They always start with some sort of faith, and if they start with the wrong faith, they won't be able to make right use of the facts. Major point, you see, James Clerk Maxwell's theorem has proved to be one of the most successful theorems we've ever had. In the century or so since he made it up, guess how many times we've had to change it?
Let me guess. Never.
That's right. It works. Now don't be surprised. It's based on the right faith in the right creator who was there, who actually put his nature in the creation. So just so we can make a few points here, would you go back and read Romans chapter 1 again?